I thought I'd make a video going through the tests that you've been having for anatomy and physiology because usually these would be done in the classroom and your tutor could then go over it with you. Um, but because we've done it in a different way this course, because of the thought that we wouldn't be able to do the practical, so we've rushed through some of the A&P that you would have done in class. Not that you do much, but so anyway, I'm just going to go over it, and it's just an extra boost, if you like, before you take your exams. Okay, so this is the cells and skin questions. Number one, what the following tissues is protective and has insulator properties? That is the adipose tissue. So the adipose is the fat, basically. The areola is like, I think of that like a packing, like the bubble wrap, and that is round all your organs to protect them, because the organs aren't just hanging there like they are in the pictures, all nice and neat. They're a mess, but they have this packing around them, and it's found in the breasts and in other areas. But the one that's on our hips that we love so much, that is the old adipose. Function of the non-striated muscle tissue. So non-striated means it hasn't got stripes on it, and that's to carry out involuntary functions. So if you think of a steak on your plate, that is the muscle that helps the animal to move. So we would be able to move with this stripy muscle tissue, and the smooth one looks smooth. If you think of a womb, that's smooth, and that is a muscle, and that definitely carries out involuntary functions. If you've ever been in labour, you just try to alter that muscle. You can move your arm because it's voluntary, but you cannot move, you can't affect the your bladder. You can, for instance, that's a muscular thing, and you've got a different muscle at the sphincter. That's a different thing altogether. Which of the following membranes produce fluid to lubricate the end of bones? And that would be the synovial membrane. If you've got two bones, they can't be just joined together. They've got ligaments to join them together. And then they've got a membrane to keep the fluid in. Otherwise, the fluid would just come out. So this fluid, synovial fluid, is what protects our joints. As well, we've got this cartilage at each side, which acts like a plastic or rubber protection. So that's synovial. The study of the structure of tissues, that's histology. Yeah, so histology, that's just it. That's what it's called. What type of tissue has the ability to stretch? Well, that's a nice easy one, isn't it? Yellow elastic. Can't stretch a bone. Which of the following tissues transmits signals? That's another easy one, isn't it? Nervous. Because the muscle can only transmit a signal via a nerve. What is the function of non-striated muscle tissue? So these are the, oh, that's the same one, so let's put the same answer. Well, that's all right. What is mitosis? This is a really popular one in the exam questions, and it's the multiplication of cells. So yeah, the cells, when you looked at the skin, it starts being made in the basal layer or the germinative uvea, and it goes up and it starts being made here, the cells, and then it gradually dies until it comes up to the top, and then it needs to be sloughed off. Melanin, so that's number 5. So melanin is a pigment that protects the skin from harmful radiation. And in our bottom layer of skin, epidermis, we have melanocytes. So the melanocytes release melanin, but it's actually from our brain that tells right up here in your you might not have done, I don't know if you've done the hormone system yet, but it's the brain that tells the melanocyte to release melanin. It doesn't just think, oh, I think the sun's come out, I'll release the melanin. Function of the hyaline cartilage to connect and protect, definitely. There can be no other answer to that. Another answer there was to store calcium. We know where that's stored, don't we? That's in the bones. To produce red blood cells, that's in the long bones of the body, isn't it? And to transport lymph, that's the lymphatic vessels. In which of the following places does malignant melanoma usually develop? And that is in a mole. How can vitiligo be recognised? This is just an answer that's just the answer, and it's white patches of skin. Some people get it, some people are born with it, and some people have more than others, but it's white patches of skin. The action of the erector pili muscle. Now this is the muscle that's attached to every hair in your head. Every single hair or in your body has got a hair, and when we get cold or frightened, the hair will stick up and to help to insulate, because the air in between acts as an insulator. When I learnt that, I just couldn't believe it, that every single hair had its own muscle. It's amazing, isn't it? And that's where we get goosebumps, is through that is the erector pili muscle, because we have got hairs, obviously, we know, and that's where those goosebumps are coming from. What can we find in the epidermis? We can find horny flat cells and melanocytes. We can also find sweat glands and sebaceous glands. So there's two answers for that, but it's also the horny layer is that top layer, actually. That's the corneum, stratum corneum. What is the lanula? That's what we call the half moon. So the luna, the half moon at the bottom. Can't see it here because I've got beautifully painted nails. But at the bottom, what we call around the cuticle area. So that's session 1. And then we've got session 2. So you can stop this and watch it when you're ready. The functions of the skeletal system. Store calcium and form red blood cells. They're formed in the long bones, and even in your phalange, this is classed as a long bone because it's longer than it is wide. So to send and receive messages, that would be the nerves. To form vitamin D, that's taken in by your skin, and that doesn't make sense, actually. And stimulate, some of the answers aren't going to make sense because they've been made up. These are old iTech questions. Stimulate and reproduce muscles. No, that's nonsense as well. So lordosis, an exaggerated inward curvature of the lumbar spine. So if you think of a lord and they stand up, and particularly people that can have that are people in the army, because they've had to stand to attention with an exaggerated way, and they can really suffer with their lumbar because of that. And also pregnant women will suffer from this because of the bending back and trying to make yourself comfortable. The other answers, inflammation of the joint caused by uric acid, that is, oh, it's gone. Gout, that's gout, uric acid. And the porosity and brittleness of the bones, that is, of course, osteoporosis. Yeah. The name of the bone that forms the upper arm, that's the humerus. Yeah, that's the humerus here on your upper arm. And then we've got the ulnar. So the upper arm is definitely the humerus. And then the other bones, we've got the radius and ulnar. So the ulnar is on the little side of your, is on the side of your little finger, if you like. So the other side is the radius. The femur is the largest bone in your body, and that's the top of your leg. Which skeletal disease generally affects the big toe? That's gout, and that's simply because the uric acid is taken down by the blood system, the circulatory system, and it forms in because it's difficult to get up, isn't it? So it just goes to these areas, and people get it in their hands as well. How many bones does the hand have? Well, that's just an answer. How many bones does the feet comprise of? That's just the answer. How is the action? What is the action of the splenius capitis to extend the neck? Got it on the back here. What is the platysma? There it is. It's the Deirdre Barlow one. It's my one now. The platysma. What crosses the ankle joint? The digitorum longus. These are popular ones actually. The digitorum longus is always a popular one. And dorsiflexion, that's always a good one for you to know, as you're going to be a reflexologist, is the flexing of the foot upwards. So, can't bring my foot up here. So there's the foot, and that is dorsiflexion. And yeah, so this is because this is a dorsal, and this is the plantar of your foot. So plantar flexion would be like that. So when I think of flexion, you think, oh, how can I remember flexion? Well, if you say flex your muscles, you do this. So flexion is that. So these muscles are pulling up. So the plantar muscles need to be stretching the other way and going that way. So what of the following is the definition of adduction? Adduction is going towards the body. Yeah, so towards the body. So abduction, if you think of somebody being taken away, it's there, it's abduction, going down there. Oh, you've got some reflexology ones here. Working on one part of the zone will affect all the zone. Well, yeah, the zone goes all the way up your body. And one of the things you need to be aware of with insurance is that if you have people coming into your home, your insurer may not like it because they think they might steal something or cause damage. So you need to let your insurer know if you're going to be treating anyone from home. And there are plenty of insurers that will insure you. And also don't forget, if you're going mobile, that you need to add in business insurance. So that's really important. I think the ethics is pretty obvious, isn't it, really? But it does happen. It does happen. You hear it, and I know people that it's happened to, that they'll persuade the clients to come with them, which is not ethical behaviour. So we don't diagnose. We can't tell what. So if people say to you when you're treating their feet, "Oh, what's this or what's that?" You say, "Well, it just means that there's a congestion in that area, but it could be anything." But if they have physical symptoms that they've told you about, then you say, "Well," you don't say, "Oh, well, I think then it might be a kidney problem." if they tell you something like, I keep getting up in the night to drink water or something, or keep going to the toilet, say, well, go to the doctor, but without saying that you think what it might be from their feet. I know Dawn's going to, and Natalie will be emphasising this, but I'm just re-emphasising it really. But you'd be surprised how people don't get that. But so we emphasise it a lot with our students, so that you leave knowing where you draw the line. So the breast reflex is in the same position as the lungs. Yeah, it would be, wouldn't it? Because it's up here. Which of the following is considered unethical? Well, you certainly wouldn't pour out your problems to them. They will tell you theirs, and a code of ethics is, what is a code of ethics? It's set down by a professional organisation. It's very important that you belong to the AOR. You may already be a therapist and belong to the FHT. That's absolutely fine, but they will have a code of ethics that will protect you and your client. If you stick to the code of ethics, you can't go wrong, because then you're covered with their insurance. Okay, so session 3. So as I say, you can stop this and come back to it another time. It's just some extra going over. Okay. So the circulatory system, what is the function of thrombocytes? That is to clot blood. They are also called platelets, and some people have to take warfarin because they have the blood has the tendency to clot a bit too much. My husband, for instance, takes warfarin, and he can still have treatment. So that doesn't mean to say they can't have treatments, but a lot of people are on warfarin, and then there is the other scale where people, they don't have that clotting ability, because as soon as we cut ourselves, our body goes into action to stop us from bleeding to death. And there's some people who they haven't got that, and they haemophiliacs, and they are in danger if they cut themselves. So it's a really important function. So to transport oxygen as hemoglobin, that would be the red blood cells, wouldn't it? That's the other answer. What are the characteristics of arteries? They have thick walls and a small lumen. A lumen is a hole, yeah? So they've got thick walls because they're actually muscular arteries. They're pumping, which is why if you cut an artery, you're in more trouble, because it's coming from the heart, and it will just pump out the blood very, very quickly. So that's why you tie the knot in the arm. The name of the muscular wall that separates the right and left of the heart, that is the septum. And we've got a septum on the nose, and we've got a septum in the heart. That's what it is. The pericardium it goes round the outside of the heart. Which of the following can be caused by a decrease in red blood cells? I expect you all knew that was anemia. Hemorrhoids is an uncomfortable blood vessel that ends up coming out of your bottom, your anus, because you've strained. Women often get it when they're pregnant, and it can be very, very, very painful. Yeah, so phlebitis is an inflammation of the veins. Arteriosclerosis is a hardening of the arteries. Where would you locate the anterior auricular lymph nodes? It sounds really tricky, doesn't it? But I always think anterior, and I can never remember, but I know what posterior means. It means the back. So anterior must mean the front, and auricular is the ears, so then I would know it was the front of the ears. The lymph from the lower limbs drains into the thoracic duct. That's just one to learn. Where would you locate the posterior? Oh, back of the ear. That's a nice easy one. Where would the lymph from the right hand drain into? The right lymphatic duct. So you've got the clue really in the question, the right hand side, and it's in the right lymphatic duct. So if they ask you the other one, then they haven't got right, then you know one's called the right lymphatic duct and the other one's isn't. So sometimes it's just elimination. Which chamber of the heart receives deoxygenated blood first? That's the right atrium. So you've got a square. If I show you, I'll get a piece of paper. Oh, it might be backwards on here, you see. Because there's your heart. I'll see what it's. I'm just hoping this is not going to confuse you, because there's the squares, and this is my right hand side. So that's the right hand. That's the right ventricle, atrium. So that's the right atrium, and that's the left atrium, because that's my right hand, and this is my left hand. It's so tricky when you're looking, I know. So it's atrium at the top, and I think of atrium like a little garden at the top of a building. And so the other one is the ventricle at the bottom here. So we've got atrium and ventricles, and the fresh, the used blood always the blood is always fills the top of the heart in, whether it's fresh blood or not fresh blood, it always goes in at the top, yeah, from wherever it's coming from. So the question is, where does the deoxygenated blood? Well, it goes in there, in the superior vena cava. It goes in at the top there, yeah. So the blood, once it goes in there, and then it comes from there to the lungs, and then it comes back from the lungs and goes into here, and then it comes out of there and then goes off into the aorta and then back around the body. Let's have a look. Here we are. That's 3. When questioning a client, it's important to ask open questions. Yeah, you use closed questions as well. Like, have you ever had this before? Yes. Or an open question like, how do you treat that condition? So that would be an open question so that they can talk. But you need some closed questions, otherwise the consultation could last for a very long time, as it has done with me when I first trained and I qualified, and I'd be talking to someone for an hour. So that's something you will learn during the course, on how to keep it to that 15 minutes. That's really important for you and for them. If they need more than 15 minutes, they need more than reflexology. This is something that will be gone over in the classroom without a doubt, so you don't have to worry about that at the moment. Total contraindications include a contagious disease, absolutely. Localized contraindication would be bruising. So localized is something that they've cut their foot, they've cut their, well, it's going to be something on their foot, isn't it? They've bruised it, maybe they've dropped something on it, they've kicked the wardrobe in the night, and so you wouldn't want to treat that area. And that's where, when you've learnt the hand reflexology, you could use the hand for part of the treatment, and you will be learning all about that. What reflex area would be useful if he's got breathing problems? Well, that would be around here, wouldn't it? Sternum, ribs, you know, it'd be the chest, yeah, because that's where your lungs are. Phlebitis, yeah, it is a very nasty condition. It's like an exaggerated varicose vein. So you wouldn't want to be treating them. Let's have a look at this one. What is the cause? This is session 4, okay? Nervous, endocrine and reproductive. What is the cause of Parkinson's disease? Damage to the basal ganglia of the brain. Yeah. Which part of the nerve cell helps to speed up nerve conduction? That's the myelin sheath. That's made up of a fatty product, if you like, and that's like the insulation. Just like you have an insulation for any electrical equipment, you've got the plastic on the outside, haven't you, or rubber, and you can imagine if that breaks up, if you've got the Hoover and you bring it out and it's got all cuts in it and it's all broken, you wouldn't want to use it, would you? Because you'd know it'd be sparking and it would be going all wrong. But that is the problem with people with multiple sclerosis, that their myelin sheath gets hard and it breaks, and that causes the electrical faults. So not everybody with multiple sclerosis will have the same problem, but it affects their walking, affects their ability to go to the toilet, all different things. Myelin sheath, really important part of our nervous system. The part of the nervous system works closely with the respiratory system during inhalation is the medulla oblongata. The muscular and nervous system work together to control and coordinate movement. Without the nervous system, your muscles wouldn't be doing anything. And without the muscles, the nerves wouldn't have a job, would they? Because what would they be doing? I know there's lots of other things that nerves do, but as regards, we're only looking at muscles and nerves. They'd, without the muscles, we wouldn't be moving, and with the muscles without the nerves wouldn't be moving, The malfunction of which hormone produces the feeling of jet lag? That's melatonin, and that comes out of the pineal gland. So that's why you would work on the pineal gland with someone that is got jet lag, or it's to help the body get back to sync again, which our body has to get back to sync again when we move the times about, don't we? For summertime and wintertime, I mean. Which part of the brain controls the endocrine system? That's the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is very much connected to the pituitary, and you work on the hypothalamus, don't you? The hypothalamus imagine that was a big toe. You work on that and the pineal, then you go down to the nose, neck and thymus. Which of the following could be a symptom of hyperthyroidism? So hyper is high. You think of a hypermarket. So it would increase the metabolic rate. So hyper means people then with that they would be sort of couldn't sit down, and if they got hypothyroidism, which is low, they'd be feeling very lethargic, easily put on weight, and have very dry skin, and it's one of the hardest things actually to diagnose for the doctors, because they have to test it in your blood, and yeah. So where would you find the pineal gland? In your head. There it is, the size of a almond, right in the middle of your brain. What is mastitis? There's not many women that have had children that don't know the answer to this. Inflammation of the breast. Which of the following structures form part of the male reproductive system? That is the vas deferens, that you work over the vas deferens, and this is where the I can't think of the word now. The fluid that what's it called? Yeah, the fluid that helps to make a baby. I can't think of what it's called, but that's from the vas deferens. It's actually made in the prostate, and then it comes down the vas deferens, and I'm sure you all know what I'm thinking of. But all the rest are women's bits and pieces, aren't they? Who introduced reflexology to Britain? That was good old Doreen. Eunice Ingham, who is she? Mother of reflexology, of course. Joe Riley, Dr. Joseph Riley and Elizabeth, who Eunice worked for. Edwin Bowers. I'm not so familiar with him, to be honest, but yeah, he wasn't one that we used to learn about, but they brought him in. And which zone would you find the thymus? Well, that must be one, because you work like that, and this is the zone one where the big toe is, isn't it? Reflexology seeks to help clients regain health by enabling homeostasis. I mean, that is what our body is trying to get back to all the time, and by allowing them to unwind and relax, it certainly helps to do that. But what it does is, because it does get the body, helps the body to relax, it helps it to restore as well, and the body then can put things right, instead of, it's not the reflexology that's doing it, it's the body that's doing it. We're just enabling the body to do what it can do, because it's a marvellous machine. When reading the feet, tinea pedis is more commonly observed between the toes, and this is athlete's foot. Pedis, like a pedal on the bike, tinea pedis, and it's commonly called athlete's foot, and it is a fungal infection. So I've just got those few to do. Oh, there's another one here. I think I'll do that one another time. That's 5, and I'll do this and another one another time. And I think half an hour is long enough, isn't it? Hope it helps anyway.